Hello and welcome back to another edition of Cheers PA Beer Talk. I'm your host, Mike Lintel. Today, joining me, I'm very excited. We have Timothy White, who's the co-owner and operations manager at Harris Family Brewery in Harrisburg. It is a brewery in planning right now, but given their hustle, I have no doubt that we will be seeing the doors opening very soon. It's also Pennsylvania's very first Black-owned brewery, which is extremely important. So, Timothy, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, I first became aware of Harris Family Brewery when I read a story about your brew day with Trogs.
Mm-hmm.
That Black is Beautiful brown lager was exceptional. And so I wanted to know a little more about it. And that's where I stumbled across the story. Can you tell me what it was like, in your words, that day as you were brewing the Trogs?
I mean, amazing is an understatement. Us being so new in the industry, and I met John and his brother maybe like a short time before that, like a year before that, and we met at a brewery conference, and it was huge, and it was a whole bunch of people there, and they were there, and I kind of just made my way across the room, like, I just wanted to say hi, shake his hand. And when I got over there, he had heard of us. So that
had to floor you. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, these guys have been doing it for 20 years, and to know who you are, just because, I mean, they keep pretty tight eye on their backyard. I mean, they know Harrisburg pretty well, but still, you had to have stood up for a reason.
Right.
That's great.
So we exchanged business cards, and he's like, email me, we'll set something up in our schedule. Well, the rest of that event goes by, and then the very next morning, 8:00 in the morning, the first email of the day that I received was from him. It was a follow-up email saying, like, here's my schedule, let's meet up. So
pros. Those guys are pros.
Ever since then, me and him have been on a friendly conversating, mentoring relationship. So that rolled into, as soon as the Black is Beautiful beer was announced, he was our first pick for who we wanted to join up with. So you get to this brewery, and he gives us the grand tour again.
Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. That's it. I can't even. That is exactly the feeling.
My brother-in-law did some of the piping in there, and he would like send me pictures, and I just like, how do you even know where that stuff goes? And like,
yeah. And you would think that the place is like super teched up, and there's a computer running everything, but it's really not. It's still semi. it's on a massive scale, but it's still semi basic. Turning valves and taking temps and all of that.
The human element is still very much, I feel like the further we get away from people actually making the beer, like, you lose the art of that. You can tell a machine how to do something, but I mean, I learned to brew from home brewing. I didn't go to school for this. Like, and to me, that's the part that I love the most about beer and the beer industry and culture of brewing is the time spent actually making the beer and seeing those changes happen. And it's just,
and from every stage of rubbing the hops together in your hand and sniffing them, and the way John knows how to take the regular human words that I use and turn them into science and all types of stuff is amazing. And then that beer sold very well and quickly, even with the restrictions that we had last year. It did really good.
It was incredible.
The lager is my favorite style of beer, and I just love how versatile it can be.
You're on the right show, man. This show is all about lager love. The hazy stuff and the hops. Like, yeah, I see the point of it. But for me, the beer that's like truly artful beer, the where you can't hide, is the ones that are the most simple, and you don't get more simple in terms of an ingredient base than a lager. But from there, you can go so many different ways, and there's not many areas to hide flaws. So that's how you can, in my opinion, you can really tell who makes great beer and who is hiding behind adjuncts and flavors and hops and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your lager love. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
The brown lager was exceptional. And what a nice choice too, because it seemed like a lot of people took that project and went completely big stouts. Everyone, let's do big. And those take time to develop, where I appreciated someone making a beer that could come out in a can at a very important time for a very important project and be drank and enjoyed, not something that's like, man, this would be so good in 12 months. Like, no, the conversation is now. We need a beer that's now. And then we can have that conversation again in 12 months because we need to keep having that conversation. So tell me about the importance of that specific nationwide project and why it was so important for you to not just do the one with Trogs, but you did a couple different collaborations, correct?
Yes, we did a couple different collaborations, and please don't ask me to list all of them.
No, you're good. You're good, man. Yeah.
Yes. Even, I mean, every day we turn on the news and social media, and these social issues are happening. Harris Family Brewery is not afraid to speak on them and everything. A lot of people get offended by this conversation, but it needs to happen. And what better time for it to happen than over a cold beer? So this initiative, the Black is Beautiful initiative, everyone locally thought that was my label, my idea, no matter how many times I gave props to Texas and Weathered Souls and told people to look it up. People really thought that all of these beers were counters or counterfeits of our beer. And I'm like, no. So I have to constantly remind people that we are joining together in an initiative and brewing that beer for this conversation. And all our other beers were stouts. So this one with Trogs was our time to flex out that variety a little bit. So I'm glad that it turned out so good. I even had one of our collabs not work out, and we had to cancel it. We had to throw the whole batch out. It just didn't come to fruition with the flavors that we wanted it to. And then that calls for another brew day. So we just went back and hit it again. And that time it was successful.
Excuse me
for
interrupting, but I just found it was most likely because you have such a strong voice here locally, and you're not afraid to have these conversations and put your name on it. When a lot of people, maybe they don't know how to have that conversation, or they're afraid, or whatever their issues are, gonna have to deal with it because things are not changing. It's like, you can't ignore what is happening. I grew up in the South, and one day had my eyes open to, I live in a different world than friends that I thought that, we're all the same in this thing together. And it was not. And to me, it wasn't fair. And so from that point, I went on my own personal journey of self-discovery, because it's my responsibility to make those conscious efforts and to learn along the way. It's not anybody else's responsibility. I mean, who ties your shoes? You tie your shoes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so if you're going to take responsibility for that, take responsibility for something even more important than making sure your footwear is tight,
Absolutely.
So thank you. And I appreciate all that you do. You said your merchandise and your brewery, not afraid to speak your mind. And so I was perusing, because I'm obsessed with that glass, man. Proper glassware. So appreciated.
It's a really nice glass, and it is available on our website. I still have a lot of them to sell. So
good. Well, you're gonna need them, because I assume as soon as you open that brewery, that is gonna, glassware kind of walks off no matter where your brewery is at. I know I have a cabinet at home. I'm sure you got a few people's glasses at your house.
Absolutely.
I take it as an homage. I try to tip well and maybe leave with the glass, but I love those days behind me. Those are younger days. I got a family now. I can't be catching a charge over a pint glass.
Over no glassware. Yeah, we used to borrow people's really nice silverware every once in a while.
Yeah, I
Um,
never understood there's a chef out in Minneapolis who's like known for stealing spoons from people. And I'm like, why are y'all like you're celebrating this man and he is a serial spoon thief. Just walking up in your place. And it's
that's
not like he's taking some cheap piece of cutlery. I mean, these places were
the good stuff.
yeah, and he's getting celebrated for it. Not
Yeah,
fair.
not fair at all. We Harris Family Brewery right now is still in our planning stages. Still the licensing process. Need I say, like, it's hard
Yes, sir.
to start a brewery.
Yeah.
No
Lot of
matter who
paperwork.
you are, and I work on it every day. I mean, I'm at my day job now, so like you still have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was a couple minutes late to this podcast because I had to hurry up and go pick up a kid from school and take him home. So it's like juggling being a father, a businessman, and a beer lover is pretty crazy every single day. We are slated to open our manufacturing facility this year, and still planning out that tap room location. Just having fun doing it.
Well, you said the key word for me, which is that manufacturing, because I am real excited to see, when I first heard of the concept that you were approaching with the nano brewery and everything on site, I was like, that's great. But for me, I live almost to Maryland, and to get up there with two young kids and just like, I was like, man, so I'm glad to hear that you're talking about manufacturing and getting it out into distribution a little bit wider. I think that's going to be such a great thing for what you all are doing there. And what kind of production space are you looking at? Is it going to be something that is ready to go? You said this year.
Yes. I'm still fundraising and to build our capacity, because the scary thing about nano, which I'm super a fan of, is supply and demand. Like doing some market research off of how fast we sold 15 barrels of that Trogs beer, for example. My 5-barrel nano system won't even be able to put a dent in that type of supply and demand. So I'm starting with a 5-barrel system with dreams of jumping to a 10 to a 20-barrel system as soon as humanly possible. And then hit Harrisburg and then hit the highway as soon as we can. Get us into those chains and those distribution channels is our goal.
Well, if there's any way that the people can help you with fundraising, please let them know. If not, we spent a lot of time on the future. I have some interest in the past because, I said earlier, I'm a home brewer by hobby, and take me back to that first brew day with Sean and the excitement in his eyes when he lured you in on that first. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. I got a hobby."
So I actually missed the first official brew. More or less, he came to me when he felt as though he had a product that I would be okay with drinking. So where the point I came in is we used to throw cookouts every weekend, really. And then one day he gave me a Formula 58 is the name of the beer. He gave me the first test batches of that in a dirty mason glass in a backyard. And I drank it. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't that bad. And the ABVs was up there. It had a little punch on it, had some spice in there. And then we knocked that whole sixtel out, I think he made that night. And then we literally talked all night drinking that first batch. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so as soon as I tasted it, I was like, yeah, we need to sell this tomorrow. Like, what how does this work? And that's when he started explaining to me what knowledge he had of the system, because he was homebrewing for about a year or two. And then I came in and I was like, oh yeah, this is it.
So Sean brings the homebrew, you bring the hustle. Together, y'all put it together and you start looking for a place. You're like, all right, we're doing this thing.
Yep.
Why was it so important that you kept it in the community of Harrisburg?
Well, me and Sean are born and raised in Philadelphia. We're both transplants to Harrisburg, but we've been here for a long time now. So it is our home. It is where we grew up, raised children, went to school, work, play, and we know how we have to drive so far to enjoy things. There's not a lot of places, great places to drink at in Harrisburg, to eat, to party. So there has been a renaissance in Harrisburg in the last 10 years of those things. And as soon as we were able to stake a flag saying this is what we want to do and what we want to represent. And by the way, I know everyone here. I live 5 minutes away. I work another 5 minutes away. We source our ingredients locally because agriculture is so big in Harrisburg and Lancaster and all the surrounding areas. We're just really big on community.
I don't think that I mean, I've always believed that brewing is about community, and the breweries that really have success are the ones that see the community as their most important resource, because if they invest in that resource, whether it's by giving back, whether it's by just providing jobs or whatever you can do to help raise the profile of any community, those are the breweries that really stand out as ones that have a passionate following. I mean, Trogs had to leave Harrisburg because they got so big for Harrisburg that they needed, they had their eyes set on a whole Atlantic region, and now it's even further out. But so they had big dreams, and even they never, from what I've heard, thought their dream, they would reach that spot.
Absolutely.
So Harrisburg has always been a very strong brewing community, but it seemed to not, be for all of Harrisburg. And so when you look at kind of how, I didn't grow up here. I moved here 5 years ago. So I've only known, the last 5 years of what, I'm like, oh, Midtown, this place is kind of cool. I kicked it with Andrea from elementary, amazing people down there. And it's just, that's all I know of Harrisburg. And why? Because it's such a beautiful and historic city that's been one of the, strongest places in the state from the beginning. It has the potential once again, but that redevelopment needs to be done reflecting of the community and not one that's just going to change the look of the community as money comes in. Because where I came from in Chicago, that's kind of the neighborhood that, I lived in. And I was like, what is going on here? This doesn't seem right, that my neighbors now can't live here anymore because they can't afford what is coming in here. So it's like, it really opened my eyes up to the negative sides of redevelopment. Everyone's like, oh, development's great. Let's spruce it up, clean it up. Like, no, if it's not done with the intention of the community, then it's really just soulless profit grabbing. So I'm glad to hear someone that's got, an entrepreneurial spirit and a dedication to the community, not just with your brewery, but the work that you do as you quote unquote day job. I mean, you're doing some Superman stuff out there, Timothy. And I got to say that, keep it up then, because that's, tremendous. I was glad to see how much money that the Black is Beautiful project raised for your organization, but also there's so much more work to be done. So by getting, like you said, planting that flag and getting Harris Family Brewery on a map, quote unquote, that's going to be just another step forward in just that positive redevelopment. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I love drinking at all our local breweries and traveling. I getting into this industry, learning how many people beercation to different states and countries to drink has been mind blowing. And then the beer community online, these groups and the trading and the can collecting. It's like, you could talk for days on how big this industry really, really is. But also, how still so small it is, and how you can still bump into a person who, A, people will say they don't drink beer still. There's a lot of people who just don't drink beer. And
they just haven't had good beer, but that's just my opinion.
That's my follow-up to that, because I said it for a very long time.
Yeah.
I used to say it all the time, like, no, I don't drink beer. Beer's nasty. And then I learned about craft beer. So teaching our community the difference of, craft beer versus cheap big beer.
Well, providing that, bringing it into the community, because it seems like, it just kind of gets missed.
Yeah, it does. It does. And advertising is key. The big beer has never advertised to the Black community. Besides making Billy D the mascot for Colt 45 in the 60s or whenever he did that, he's still the mascot. And shout out to Lando. He's the man, but I'm just saying we need a little bit more than him.
Yes, and maybe something a little better than a malt liquor. It kind of, like, I mean, the palate doesn't have to be that nano. Like, can we stretch it out, man?
Yeah.
So, as you are looking at your opening, what beer are you most excited about for the people to try? You already mentioned Formula 58.
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm excited to try that one. Is there anything else? Or are you keeping it all pretty tight-lipped because you don't want people to start stealing your styles? I get it.
No, my partners they're conspiracy theorists. So yeah, they don't like me talking too much, because every time we come up with an idea, we see it online a little while later. But I also am a believer of not too many ideas are one-off. Everything's an inspiration of something else. So I say that to say we have a HFB lager that is one of our flagships. We have Formula 58. We have a stout and a saison that are
thank you,
kind of our flagships. And then we're gonna see what hits, what goes from there. I've grown to love an IPA now. I didn't drink IPAs in the beginning, but Sean won me over. I love sours. I was surprised that I like sours, but
so complex and like
people are making some good beer.
Yeah.
It's
making
amazing.
those work for you. I mean, it's incredible what the developing depths and flavors, and then the blending from barrel to barrel and what you can do. It's exceptional. I mean, it's akin to winemaking and some of the things, where you're developing body and structure as well as tannin profile and acidity. It's just like, how the hell did you do this?
Right. And I don't even want to begin to know how they do it. I just want to be
witchcraft.
I just want to be the enjoyer of it every time I get a chance. I love celebrating other breweries. Like, no hating over here. Like, we're showing all the love. People have reached out to us and offered their help in our process. Bootstrapping a brewery is hard, depressing, and it's a roller coaster. So we're still making it happen.
I have no doubt, man. You got to just stay on that path. You have already come so far, and it's so inspirational. The work that you're doing in both of your jobs, and so I commend you for all of that. I'm really excited to drink that beer, and I can't believe you got the old 0 Day bar. So I'm excited to get reunited with that piece of familiar equipment. There's a lot of stories in that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's sitting in the garage waiting to be put back together. But yeah, how cool was that? Like, for them guys to call me and say, hey, you interested in this? We're about to throw it out. And I ran over there, picked that puppy up so quick, because I just want some of the good luck that rubbed off of that. Their business structure how they started in Midtown. They're still in Midtown. But I think within 10 years, they're working on their third location. They just grew their capacity double. So, and they're just good people.
They're good people that brewed for their community. You know what I mean? Like they invested in the community that as it was redeveloping, but now you look out, you guys are the next step in that development. So if it can be done by people who care about the community, and we can continue just replicate the same stuff, because Harrisburg has that community that cares about beer and what they're doing with Harrisburg Beer Week and how they're so committed to river rescue. I mean, there is a strong brewing culture in South Central Pennsylvania, and I'm excited for what y'all are going to bring to that, because I have no doubt it's going to be saisons and lagers. Thank you. You're like, tell me your flagships. Stout, saisons, and lagers. That's all I need. Don't even worry about that. You can have a whole different engine for the hobby stuff. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's going to be great. Well,
there's some big names coming out of Philadelphia soon in the black beer community, so that's great. Pittsburgh is right behind that.
Didn't y'all do something with two locals?
Yes, we did a collab.
Those guys, I'm real excited to get my hands on some two locals, because
they're they've got some beer in cans now. So look into that. I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm working on it.
Well,
might need to.
We should look up offline. Maybe we should try to figure out a way to. You were talking about those trades earlier. We can make something happen.
Right.
That sounds good, man. That sounds real good. Timothy, I appreciate your time today. I'm very excited for your opening. Please let people know where they can find the latest information, social channels, any of that kind of stuff you want to promote here.
Yeah. Our website is harrisfamilybrewery.com. We're very heavy on Instagram. Once again, Harris Family Brewery, and Facebook. We communicate daily with people, buying a shirt, buying a glass. I'm thinking about restarting our GoFundMe. People just keep asking me every day that, how can they help? And I don't want there to be no answer to that. I need to be an answer to that. So keeping that door open for our community to support us is amazing. Not only have I been shown love to everyone in the States, but when you get a message from somebody in the UK, when you get a message from someone across seas, it's like, wow, we're so honored to be a part of this industry and loving every bit of it. But that's how you can support us. Grab a shirt, grab a glass, and do what you can. You got it. That merch spot is loaded up and ready for y'all. So check it out. Keep an eye on Harris Family Brewery. You're not going to want to miss it. We want to thank Timothy White once again for joining us today, co-owner and operations manager for Harris Family Brewery. Thank you very much, Timothy. Thank you. And now we have a brief review of this month's beer of the month. We're going to be highlighting Conshohocken Brewing's Puddler's Row. It's an ESB, which is notable that this is the only beer that they have made continually since the day they opened. It's a two-time World Beer Cup silver medalist for an ESB, as well as just a phenomenal beer. So if you like something that's malty, it's toffee, it's got a little bit of richness to it, with not a ton of ABV, lighter body than your typical stouts and porters, 5.4% ABV, you're going to want to check out Puddler's Row. Great beer for the upcoming warmer months. You're going to want to check it out at Wise Markets or anywhere else you can find it in 16-ounce 4-packs. Thank you very much again to Harris Family Brewery and Timothy White for joining us today. That'll do it for us here. We'll see you again next time.